and hand it over to Brianna.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good day, wherever you are tuning in from at whatever time. My name is Brianna, and I am the resident artist for WatercolorSnacks, and I will be your instructor. So this is for those of you that haven't met me yet. So I did post the class prep. I wanted to do something fun and loose, and so I thought of doors with personality, and I think there's probably some Monsters Inc. like subtle references in there because it's one of my favorite movies. But I also just genuinely love to take things like this and just have fun with it. It feels very whimsical, very enjoyable, very loose. And the whole idea behind it is to give these doors different personalities. So I have the two examples here. This example is just a single door, but it's got a lot of detail. It's got kind of some folk art styles on it, and it's got some like leaves coming out from behind it and stuff. So that's really fun. But then if you wanted, you could also do just something simple. And this is just simply blocking in the shapes and then layering details on top. So we're not going to do this one to this extent today because this can get a little time consuming, but I am going to do a combination of both of these. We're actually going to do 3 doors on this little sheet right here. And we're just going to have fun with it. So be thinking about what kind of personality you want your doors to have. When I think about, doors and I think about my favorite things, well, there's one I would definitely want to include plants because I love plants. I love leaves. I could incorporate like we could do like a fox door, and I mean like you could do your favorite animal. You could do a paint splatter door. So I think those are actually some good ideas to start with. So I have all the supplies, including the manga liner, because I don't know if you can see it on here, but there is, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there is some detailing in gold because I got a gold manga liner. And this actually just kind of made the piece. I just went through and added little tiny gold details once I was done with it, and it just kind of made the whole piece, made it really pop. I love adding slight accents of metallics. So on that note, I encourage you to go in whatever direction you want. If you would like to do just one door and give it all its detail, absolutely go for it. If you want to do a bunch of little doors with little details, subtle details, go for it. I'm going to do a combination of the 3, and you are welcome to follow along or go at it with your own pace and your own style. So I used the oval brush quite a bit. I didn't mask off any doors because I figured that I could just go ahead and freehand it. But if you wanted to have like really crisp doors, this one I did use some thin washi tape and I masked along the edges of my door so I wouldn't have to worry about it going anywhere. So whatever door pattern you decide to do, we are going to be doing it very lightly. So by that, I mean, we're going to be using a very light wash. So in order to get the best, like even washes, especially with this paper, I don't know how many of you may have noticed, working on hot press paper, I feel like the paint can dry a bit quicker. Obviously, it depends on how much your water ratio is, but I do feel like that is a pretty consistent thing with hot press. So for me, I'm just mixing, oh, hello. I'm just mixing a combination of the oxide brown and a little bit of the purple. And this is just because it's a little bit more toned down in the color. Neither one is too bright. They kind of help to mute each other down. But you can choose whatever you want. You could even just do a more diluted brown. So once I have my paint in my palette over here, I'm actually just going to take my water drop and just do a few drops, like 3 drops of water. And the point for this is to just make sure that I'm not applying anything too heavy. Yeah, that's pretty good. Because we want it to be really light. And I would say do that for a total of 3 colors. Even if you're not mixing, you can just lightly dilute them down. I'm going to take the blue because I feel like that's a really nice one to have. Again, just putting it in the palette and just adding about 2 or 3 drops of water.
Hey Bree, question in the chat.
Yeah.
Emma asked, how do I know if I have too much paint or how much paint is too much paint?
So I always like to have a swatch card here on hand, and that's just any scrap of paper. I try to keep it the same type of paper that I'm actually working on with my illustration. So, and that is just a matter. So if you pull straight from your color and you lay it down, and you can see that there's a lot of vibrance there. So we want something a lot more sheer. So, and you can also kind of tell with a bit of the consistency, like it might be a little bit more thick, whereas the more watered down version has got a lot more fluidity to it, a little bit more, less viscosity, I think is the right term. So I don't know if that answers the question. It's a little hard. It comes and goes, but I would say always err on the side of lighter. So if you're not sure if it's going to be too dark, and mind you that watercolors dry lighter than what they are when you lay them down. But if you're not entirely sure, just err on the side of lighter. Just add some more water. You could, because you can always add more color later. Hopefully that helps. Then we're going to pick a third color. I've got this mixture right here of this green and blue. It's just the sap green and the ultramarine just left over in my palette. I find I've been using this color quite a bit, and I'm probably going to have to remix it. So again, it doesn't matter what color you choose, just pick 3 base colors or 1 base color, however many doors you're choosing. I like to make sure I have more than one area to work on because I hate waiting aimlessly for paint to dry. This is just to create like a teal color. Adding a little bit more blue. And this is also why I try to use a side, like an extra palette versus just pulling straight from the paint in the pan, because you do have more control over the transparency of it, and you can kind of create as much as you need. So that's a bit more blue than I would like. You could always add yellow to it. That would work too. I'm just going to add some more sap green because the sap green's got a good amount of yellow. You can mix the purple and the red is a really fun one. The yellow with the green or the blue or the red always give good options. You could even do all 3. I don't know what that would turn out to be. All right, once I have all 3 colors that I'm going to use, I'm going to go ahead and start laying them down. So we're going to take this first one, and I'm just taking my oval wash brush, and we're just going to create, I'm going to try and shoot for like different shapes and different sizes. And this is just to try and get a nice flat wash. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Also remember to embrace the loose edges if you don't have it fully masked off. If you want those really crisp edges, you absolutely can, but don't feel like you have to. And I do like to rotate my piece quite a bit. I find when working with the oval wash brush, or maybe even just any sort of flat shader brush of any kind, I get the best lines when I have it on its side, or when I'm starting from the top and working down. Now I want to move that color down. And if you find that there's too much color and you feel like it's too dark, there is a way you can remedy that. There's a couple ways. One of them, you can actually lift it up with the paper towel. You can dab it with the paper towel. Or you can rinse off your brush and remove the moisture, and you can actually just take it and begin to swipe it down. You want it to be like a dry brush. It's still damp because we've been using it, but it's got all the moisture, dabbed out of it. And then if you go around it, just follow your edges. It can really help to lift the color because, again, we're going to be adding layers. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of range to be able to see our layers. There is door number 1. Right. Door number 2, I actually think I'm going to make it a round door. And the oval wash is great for this. So remember in the very first class, we did cover like how to use the oval wash brush, and it works really great for creating round areas. So, excuse me. We're just going to start with one end. We're just going to kind of slowly start to push that puddle around using the tip of your oval wash brush. The oval, just need to call it the oval brush. Now my circles are never fully perfect, so don't feel bad if your circle isn't fully perfect. And there might be some space below and above this piece, and that's okay. Could always fill it with little details later. Need some range for this part. And it's just kind of following that edge of the brush right there, using that to kind of move your paint around. I get very inspired by Hobbit doors. I was actually fortunate enough to get to see Hobbiton before, and so getting to see all the round doors was very, very beautiful, very inspiring. And so I always try to incorporate one of those because they're just fun. Again, lifting some of that color, and that's just going through and washing around. And I also like it because it kind of pushes the color towards the edge of my door, of my shape right there. And it kind of creates like a faux line work edge almost. All right. And last but not least, we're going to have our blue color here. And I'm going to try and make this maybe a little bit shorter than the green one. I don't really have much room to make it fatter, but I can try. I had a lot of fun working with the example piece because it was just filling the whole page with all these little blocks of color, and it really helps me get to know my brushes a lot better. So when in doubt, draw some doors. Just lay out some random shapes in brush strokes, and it can be very helpful. And there's the infamous cat hair in my piece. Now, because it is a round edge on this brush, it can be a little bit hard to get into those tight corners to create like a really sharp edge, sharp corner right there, but it is possible. It is possible to achieve. Just takes a little extra fill.
Recording in progress.
Again, we're just going to go ahead and remove some of that, although that wash is really nice. But I want to make sure I can secure enough room, or enough transparency to be able to layer effectively with the top. All right, so we've got 3 doors.
Question for you, Bree, in the chat here. Emma says, how did you get your wash so even?
So your wash, in order to get an even wash, you want to make sure that it's working wet. So you want to make sure that you are going quickly, because if it's a wet on dry, especially with the hot press paper, it can be really challenging to keep that wash. So you have to work somewhat quickly, but just make sure that you're always moving around. So anytime you see some edges starting to form that coffee stain edge, that coffee stain effect, start to like add some water to it and scrub it out. It'll help to loosen it and kind of help to bring it down. But yeah, it's really just how much water you're using and how quickly you apply it, which is why I say to dilute your color before you use it. This way it already has a lot of water in it and you're not kind of doing dry brush. All right. Now I'm going to use the tiny round brush. Yep, the round size 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to create some of these I don't know what you call them, but they're kind of like those indents that you see. Sometimes you see them mostly in like front doors or something like that. They have those indents, but there's not really any line work. They're really just based on shadow, and I had a lot of fun working with them. So we're going to be doing some of those. And what I'm going to be doing is actually just using the same color, but I'm going to add a little bit more paint to what we've already used. So whatever color you're using, go ahead and use the same color, just add a little bit more paint versus water. And you can do that by adding it just straight to your mixture. Because we've already got our wash down, we're going to need something a little bit more, like a little bit less transparent, a little less transparent for this next step. And you can do that because like I've already got a swatch right here. So you can actually go in here and see how dark it would be. Now, a good way to tell, and I don't know if the camera's going to be able to pick it up, but as I start to apply my color, I can see that it kind of lays down in almost like a puddle. Have you ever done that experiment where you would take an eyedropper, put it on a penny, and you'd watch the skin of the water just kind of expand as it holds it and kind of keeps it contained? That's kind of what I look for whenever I'm applying my paint, is how much water is in there. And when I lay it down, does it come up as like a bubble almost, like kind of three-dimensional, or does it kind of lay down really thick? So this is a good consistency because it's just slightly darker than what I want. I might even add like one more drop of water to it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start from one end. We're going to load up your brush, not too much, but just, I'd say like 1 or 2 dabs into the water. If you have like drops threatening to come off your brush, that's too much. And we're just going to start from the outer edge. We're just going to draw a line. You can make the line long, you can make the line short. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to, while it is wet, we're going to rinse it off, dab off the excess water, but there's still some water in there. And we're going to follow that line. We're just going to start to fade it out. And I'm going to kind of drag those out where there would be corners, kind of showing that it's elevated. And I like to get a nice ombre right there. So you see how most of the color is right there along the edge. That's because we did a wet on dry, and we were able to take a damp brush and just kind of fade out the color from there. So then it just kind of blends into the rest. So go ahead and repeat that step for those little indents. And you can do just one at a time. Now this one's really, really faint, really, really light, and that's okay. You can always add more. If you wanted to add a little bit more saturation, you just take the tiniest little dab of paint and just follow that wet edge right up against the dry part, and you let it fan out from there. Now for this particular area, it's very small for that, but you can just easily dab up the excess color there. Just continue to fade it out. Now this may take a minute, and don't worry about that. Taking your time is always welcome. But this is going to help you get used to the practice of layering and kind of getting that nice fade out. And if you are finished with your one little corner there, go ahead and start adding some others. I'm going to move on to this next section just to have it parallel. And I do find it is easiest to rotate and angle my brush to kind of pull it out versus pushing it out. That is one thing about watercolor. You cannot push watercolor. You can only drag and pull. Watercolor, it likes to be led. It likes to be the follow. I used to do a lot of dancing, so the terms leads and follows very, very attached to my vocabulary. But you are always leading the watercolor where you want it to go. All right. Now I want to create a pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat these little indents on the lower half of my door. And I don't know if I'm going to do it in the middle half. We might save the middle for like, I don't know, a mail slot. I forget there are doors that have mail slots. There's a lot of rotating in this part for me, and that is quite all right. It's always better to switch it and come at it from a different angle. Some people do tape their pieces down to their actual desk or whatever top surface they're working on, and that is perfectly fine. But I always tape it, if I'm going to mount it, I like to tape it to a board, like this is just the back of a sketch pad. Any sort of surface will work, but I like to be able to rotate it for these very purposes. All right. So your door should look something like that. And we're already starting to get some, it's already starting to move from beyond its, its square color shape to actually having some detail in there. All right, so next, I'm going to move on to a little hobbit door here. We're going to repeat the same process. Not the same process. We're going to do something similar. We're going to use the layering technique. So again, adding the color that you were using before. So this is a combination of the transparent oxide brown and dioxazine purple, but you can use whatever you want. Remember to use less dioxazine purple because that purple is vicious. Actually, I don't think we're going to use the brown color. I think we're going to use the red with some of the brown because we want to do layering, but we want to do layering with different colors too. So layering with different colors helps the tones underneath. Like it can help to complement. It's almost like if you took like a green cellophane and a purple cellophane or pink one or something, and you overlaid them, you get a different color underneath. And that's kind of how watercolor works. Think of it like sheer pieces of cellophane or glass that layer on top of each other to create something new. So we've got this red color here, and it's kind of bold. So we're gonna add a little bit of water. I think just 2 drops is good. There we go. And we're going to layer that on top of our brown color. Now our brown color is really faint, so it may not have as strong of a layering effect as far as the different colors go, but that's quite all right. And I'm actually just using the tiny detail brush because this is a tinier door. If you're working on a larger door, then go ahead and use your oval wash brush. Oh dear. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly start to lay in these panels, these wood panels. And so I'm going to have like a space in between. So kind of following that line to be parallel. I'm just kind of creating this space. And now because by adding the water to your color, it's really going to help it to maintain a translucent effect, but also easier to spread. Water is what helps your paint move. So always remember to add water if you're feeling like it's not working super well. Like it's not spreading very far. I'm just going to go ahead and do that until we have panels all the way across. Another reason why I like to add the water and create a more diluted effect is because once I lay it down, it can actually hold for a second while I finish laying out the rest of my area. And then I can still go back and spread it around because all the moisture in that line right there is holding it together and keeping it from drying too fast. Water and paint control come with time, the more that you practice it. And I've heard people tell me that I use watercolors in my personal work more like markers. I don't know if that helps at all, like visually or conceptually, but I think that's how I've been able to kind of figure out more of my control. And I mostly do a lot of wet on dry. I do a lot of wet on wet when I'm covering large areas or need something very even, or just to have like a unique flow into it. And you might find as you start to work with these things that you might start to see like there's a little bit of discoloring like here, like this color is a bit, this panel right here is a bit darker than these 2 panels. And that this one is a little bit darker on this side, but a little bit lighter on this side. And that's part of the beauty of watercolor. So learn to embrace that. That will be your friend. All right, and now we're going to come over to our blue door. If you're still finishing up your door, if you're doing multiple doors or even the same door, like take your time. But over here on our blue one, I feel like I need some sort of window. So I'm going to go ahead and create a darker color. If you wanted, you could have like reserved the space for your window before just adding all the color. But I wanted to add the color, and I think I'm going to make a dark window, like indicating that the lights are off on the inside or something. So I'm going to add some blue, but I'm also going to add some purple and some brown, and this is going to help to create more of a bluish gray tone. Now this brown is really great because it's almost across, it's not full brown, it's kind of got some orangey tone, like hues in there, which makes it really good when counteracting with blue because they are opposite on the color wheel. Now that's definitely a brown color that we created, so we need to add some more blue to that. You do not have to follow my mixtures. You can use whatever colors you want. As long as we're practicing the same layering effect, you're going to get it just fine. But I do try to explain my color mixing as I go, because I know that I get a lot of questions about how to mix colors and how to find the right colors. So if you find me mixing, me talking about mixing colors, you are more than welcome to glean from it what you will, but you can also just ignore it and go into whatever colors that you want to build. So we've got this nice gray tone right there. And the more saturated you want, the more paint you want, less water. But I feel like a nice tone here. So we're just going to go in and we're just going to lay in this pattern. I kind of feel like these little pizza slice patterns are really fun on doors. It's like a half circle. Got these pizza slices almost. I'm just going to lay in this detail right here. And there we got the startings of a window. Oops. Now, if you accidentally get water on your piece, just take a dry brush and just dab it right up. If that water dries, it will kind of affect your wash. You could also just dab it up with a paper towel too. But it was so tiny, it was going to dab up the rest of my work. I'm going to just use a paper towel. Then I'm going to go ahead and do some more of this kind of indented detailing here on my blue door. To do that, I'm going to mix a little bit more of my blue. Or we're actually going to try purple. Why not? Change it up. Change the narrative. So, but I am going to add a little bit of blue to my purple. But I want to create a slightly different shade, because I think you'll be able to see a slight difference between what we've done with the green door and what we'll do with the blue door. Same layering effect, but different colors, and you can kind of see how they pop. So we're just going to go ahead and repeat that step. And I really like this step a lot. Like, I know it can feel tedious, but for me, I love it. And it also is really helpful when trying to get a feel for how to control your color and your wash. So it's kind of a little bit of a Mr. Miyagi moment here. This little fade out technique. Because you'll find along the way, you're like, oh, this is a lot more water than the last stroke that I did, or this is a lot more pigment, or I need to erase some of this or fade it out in a different way. And you start to learn through that experience. That's what I didn't do in water. There we go. Now you will notice that as I do the layering, I either stick with colors like in the same shade or in the same end of the color spectrum. Because when you are layering, it definitely makes a difference. If you layer yellow on top of blue, it can create, a green tone, but it can be a little bit more muddy than you would anticipate. If I was going to do that, I would probably layer yellow first and then blue. Because yellow is a naturally lighter color, it won't show up as well. It has the potential to just kind of make the piece feel a little off. Now here is a good example of why adding water to your work, to your paint before using it is helpful. So in here, you can see these 3 panels are really soft. This one right here, the color extends all the way to the edge and it is much harsher and it's much more full. It still works and it's fine, but this is a good example of how adding water to your paint really helps with the color control.
Hey, Bree, you're almost halfway through for today.
Okay.
So just giving you a time check here.
Perfect, thank you. Time is flying by. I think I'm going to cheat on the last half of this door down here. And I'm going to make it one, instead of breaking it up into 2, I'm going to take it and do one larger indent here. It's not really cheating if it's your own door. You can do whatever you want. Doors come in all shapes and sizes. I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but I am always in the middle of my work, always realizing, oh, I could have done this over here. I could have done that over there. And there's no exception for class pieces. I probably could have given this door a bit of an arch to make it a little bit different than the green door, but that's okay. Because they're still going to have different details. And you can always add more definition to your edges as you go, if you like. All right. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit more definition to these bottom ones because they just seem to be a little lost. And I'm just going to take some color and just lightly retrace over those edges while these areas are still wet. And then work on fading them out. Now I have different doors for different things, and I want to be able to capture some of those things. Okay. Well, what made it onto my door? So I'm actually going to be pulling from the middle here. I'm actually going to start to lay in some It's kind of coming out from behind this hobbit door. I feel like it's very appropriate considering, you know, hobbit doors, very cottagecore. It's got a lot of greenery, and I'm just taking some sap green and just putting it in a palette so I can just pull from it comfortably. And I'm not going to add water, but I will be dipping my brush into water to kind of add some here. And I'm just going to do some loose leaves. There we go. Maybe some vines, just give it some texture.
Looks like Rodney in the comments is saying, could you put the arch on? I'm guessing he's referring to one of the doors.
I probably would have needed to do that before I laid down the color. I think that was what I was referring to. I probably would have given this a bit more of an arch rather than making it a square door had I thought about it in the beginning. But you were absolutely like welcome to do that. I think I posted a couple of examples of different types of doors, and some of them had a more rounded arch to the top of them. And by all means, like go for it for sure. Yeah, I don't think I did any arch doors, which is weird. But I do like having the window piece here because that makes me feel like I actually added some a different shape element to it. So that gives me some comfort. And this is just some freehanding here, just some little loop-de-loos and swirls with some leaves around it. And then you've got leafy vines. All right. While the leaves are kind of taking a moment to settle, there's quite a bit of water in them, so that's okay. But it'll make it a few minutes to settle. We're going to come back over to this door, and I think what we're going to do with this door is we're going to make it a paint splatter door. However, I am going to add, using the same color, I'm going to just do a little detail at the base, like in the center of the story here, just a little painted detail. Well, that looks like a mustache. That's funny. You can just do like little details here. Be sure and have fun with it. Whatever you decide you want to do for detailing, go for it. It helps me to picture it for different things like, you know, plants for one, paint for another, things that I like, things that I enjoy. And I think for this other one over here, we're going to do some paint splatters on this one once that little detail dries. But I think for this side over here, I keep thinking bats and I don't know why. So we're just going to do some little bat detailing. And I'm probably going to take a diluted version of that gray. Pull that gray aside and just do a light tone of it, because we don't want it to be too dark to match the window at the top. If you don't know me, you know that I love bats. I think I was originally thinking a fox, but I think a bat will work better for this. I'm just going to do in some light gray detailing, so it's going to be very translucent when it dries. We're just going to go over, don't worry about where it lands really, just have fun with it. Just put the details wherever you feel like they belong. I'm kind of just dragging the color out to continue to keep it that same shade rather than adding a bunch of water or a bunch more paint to it. It's gonna be Batman's door. Once you've laid it down, you can actually go in and add some more, but once like an even wash, once you've got like an even tone, you can just kind of go in. Just going to do a bat wing up here. And look at those corners. Encourage you to find things that speak to your personality. So if you know, Monsters Inc. was pulling your door from their big array of stuff, what would your door look like? That's always a fun thought I have about it. I feel like that's good for the wings, but I feel like these are the little areas need some details there. All right, so for the paint splatter door, it is important if you're doing paint splatter of any kind, it's always good to have an extra card around or two to kind of protect the rest of your piece that you don't want splattered. So I'm actually going to use a couple of extra little cards here. Just lay them around the border on the outside of my door. Thankfully, I picked a door that's on the end. And then we'll have a third card here. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to make some colors. So I'm going to take my fan brush here. I don't really know how well splattering does with the fan brush, but we're going to find out. We're going to start with the yellow because it's really, really light. And by holding this over, we're just going to lightly tap. So see how it's going to catch like all over the card around here. This is an effect I love to do with just about all of my work. Whatever medium, I enjoy it. We can take some of the red. Oh dear. And it just goes everywhere. Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. Just add a little bit of water and some paper towels. Nothing I can't fix. So, right. Maybe a little bit purple. Now, purple is powerful. Be careful with purple. Yeah. And then carefully remove. You're going to get splatters around no matter what, but at least it's more contained. And you could probably even go in with your paintbrush, make sure it's damp. So dip it in some water, dab it on your paintbrush or on your paper towel, and then just kind of like dot out some of these little areas, kind of make it look like it's spread around, like it's like actual paint splatters or ink blots or something. Helps to give it a more of a realistic effect than just speckles. I mean, speckles are great, but you want that real splatter effect. Yeah. Directions. You want to do that while these splatters are still wet, obviously. But I got a little bit of yellow in my leaves right here, and I actually think that's pretty fun. And it's a happy accident right there. And it works perfect because the yellow works well with green. Now I'm going to come back to these panels over here and using this, the brown that we started with. Yeah, we're going to keep it a really light tone. We're going to create the grain of the panels right there. So by doing that, I'm just going to take a little detail brush and we're just going to like drag it down. You want to make sure it is faint, your color, because when it dries, it will dry very subtle and it'll look like wood grain. So I'm using like a bit of a damp brush, dipping it into my diluted color, and it's just kind of different strokes. Here you can do some wood grains, some wood knots. I'm still studying wood grain effects and whatnot and how to achieve them more fluidly, but you get the idea.
Hey, Bree, a lot of good comments in the chat here.
All right.
Emma is wondering, how do we do doorknobs or door handles? And I'm guessing you're going to get to that.
Yep.
Let's see. Laura Lynn says, sometimes I have to do the splatter effect because I inadvertently do splatters and my hand is very famous for getting paint. Transfer onto the piece. And then Gina says, flicking clean water before splattering paint also helps to spread the paint drops.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think I've seen things like that, but I never thought about, I think I've always seen like a mister, but I've never actually seen flicking the water. I love that. That's a brilliant thing. Thank you for mentioning that. Awesome. Oops. Your wood grains go in all different directions. And the thing I love about wood grain is that it's very welcoming for shakier hands. So if you're not getting it perfectly straight, that's wonderful. It just kind of adds to the effect. I love the comment about adding splatters because we tend to add splatters naturally just through the working process. I love that because I feel that. I think I have a really hard time being really symmetrical and perfect and things like that. And so I kind of embrace the messier side because that's just kind of what happens naturally. And so I just like make it like I did on purpose. All right. I feel like my door over here is a little bland. It looks like it's got 2 eyebrows and a mustache with 2 eyes. I will never unsee it now. Okay. We're waiting for the wood grain to dry. We're waiting for this to dry. So we're going to add something to this area. I have this maroon color in my palette. However, I'm going to remix it because I want to always explain colors if I can. To get the maroon color, we're just going to take this beautiful alizarin. I can never pronounce it. It's the crimson color. Take the crimson color and the purple, and we're going to mix it, and it's going to create this beautiful maroon wine color. It's one of my favorites. You know what? We're going to do these little roses. And by roses, it's just taking the tiny brush, just kind of doing these little half moon circles around each other. And why not? Just make these little roses. Very simple, very easy. Very gothic. I say gothic because when you add the bats. Now I have a lot of puddling happening right there in my roses. So I'm actually going to take my kind of dry brush. I've dabbed out the extra moisture from it, and I'm just going to lightly trace over. And you see how it just absorbs these little puddles and makes it lighter. And it will also dry faster. Make sure that you rinse your brush periodically when lifting any sort of color like that. There we go. And then I'm just taking a bit of the purple I'm just doing some light little leaves. Just little quick dashes here and there. Nothing fancy, just a little detail. You can't have roses without leaves. There we go. All right, doorknobs. So I'm actually going to use probably this gray color for a few of them, because I just feel like it's a nice offsetting tone. So we're going to take our gray color. I loved the idea about the door handle, like not just a doorknob. I think yesterday I was only doing doorknobs, and I like the idea of a door handle, which I think we're going to save for the purple one over here, the bat door. But in the meantime, we're going to do a door handle, and that's just simply drawing a round shape, an oval, a circle, whatever you'd like. I don't like to do a full color, a full closed shape necessarily, because the doorknob has highlights to it. So I've just kind of done this like half circle with a few little white blots, or blots that are untouched. And I think the Hobbit doors are typically round handles. So, and it might even be in the center. I can't remember if it's in the center, but we're going to do it from the outside. Yes, that's how my Hobbit doors roll. Do a handle. Because why not? So what this is just we're going to do like a swirl. We're going to do this little swirl. Remember that you have to drag your watercolor, can't push it. There we go. And I am closing it off in a solid shape here, because I also have a manga liner, which I do want to use. And it may seem a little odd to just do the round doorknobs, but when you think about it, if you're looking at a door straight on, you're not actually going to be viewing the door, like the whole doorknob. It just looks like a circle. If you view it from the side, you'd see more of like the base of the doorknob and stuff like that. So that's why I just do these little circles, little simple circles. While I'm waiting for my doorknobs to settle, I'm going to go ahead and take some more green, pulling straight from the palette this time. We're just going to add some little details to the leaves, because they're great. They're a nice flat tone, but they're flat. So let's add some details. All about those details. There you go. And if you really wanted to, you could even create a border along the outside of one of your doors. I think I'm going to do it for the green one. I'm going to take some of this. Let me see. Yeah, we're doing good. I'm going to take some of the brown color I used for the Hobbit door, but I like to use the same colors where I can. And we're just going to do this light little brick patterning. And all that is just doing these little blocks. Nothing super special. Little blocks of color, kind of like bricks. I'm keeping a white outline and a little white space in between. There are so many details you can do for doors. You could also do the same thing with windows. You could do it with anything, really. I love adding personality and whimsical things to just the ordinary stuff. It makes life feel a lot better. I would use the oval brush, except that I wanted more of a brick feel, so I didn't want it to be super round. If I had a flat shader brush, it would be perfect. But this little round brush works perfectly. And they're not going to be perfect, and that's all right. Not going to be perfect shapes. They might come out, they might dry different shades, some might dry a little darker, some might dry a little lighter, and that's honestly beautiful. Now I have a little bit more color in this particular brick, and I'm just kind of pulling from it as I continue on down the line. And this way it removes the need to have to dab it up, and it just kind of gives it multi-purpose, multifunctional use.
Bree, question for you in the chat here.
Sure.
Let's see here. Hold on. Questions about the aqua board that was included in this box. Did you get a chance to use it, and do you have any tips to use it?
I haven't had much of a chance to play around with it, actually. I was so distracted with this particular paper pad that I honestly, I've been afraid to work on aquaboard, but maybe I will work on that this week and let you know my thoughts and some of the things that can help with that. I'm not gonna lie, I think I forgot that we got a second surface in this box. But thank you for reminding me of that and for bringing that up. That is very good. I haven't actually worked on aquaboard very much. I've heard nothing but good things though. An artist that I follow and friend, she loved it so much. They are now one of her exclusive surfaces that she uses for her work. I mean, I can't blame you because it's a board, so it's durable. It's kind of like a canvas for watercolor. Good question. All right, now I've got my brick laid down. I'm going to go ahead and take my manga liner and begin to add some details. I'm going to shake it really good. And if it needs some pump action, go for it. And what I try to look for is try to look for highlights. I don't like to have too much metallics going on in my pieces. I like to use them for accents because I feel like you can see them better. They're a lot more noticeable that way. So I use it for a little bit for the highlight of the doorknob. I like to highlight these little edges right here on the door panels. For this one, I think I might actually just outline, because it's, now that I outlined the brick around the green door, the rest of them seem a little bland. So we're just going to add a little bit more detail. I love the fine tip of this piece. We're going to do something similar. We're going to go ahead and outline the window panes here. Pull them forward a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
Some follow-up in the comments regarding the aqua board. Everyone else is kind of afraid to try it as well. So Pam said anything you can share on Mix after you've experimented would be great.
Sure. I might do a brief live stream on Mix next week, just spending some time exploring it. And this way you guys might be able to see me exploring it live and might be able to learn from some of that, and be able to apply it to your own practice. I also feel a little afraid because I just have the one aqua board and it's like, well, I don't want to ruin it, but you know what? Sake of learning, there's always more aqua board out there. So
it's a bonus live stream. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, I'll just do like a little live stream on Mix.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I'll experiment.
Do you want to schedule that? I mean, we can schedule that so people can.
I gotta see what my schedule looks like for next week, but
either way, it'll be recorded and saved there anyway.
Yes, it'll be recorded and saved, so you can, if you can't make it live, you can definitely reference back to it.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. And there, I would say, I think that this is pretty much done, at least for my doors. If you are still working on it, please go for it. But in the meantime, I'm going to take some time to peel the washi tape because I got 2 rounds of washi tape to peel. So a little hot tip, if you do find that you want a board to be able to mount your stuff onto regularly, what's a really good suggestion, no matter what surface you use, line it with packing tape because it makes it waterproof, but then it also prevents tape from like ripping if you're dealing with like just a cheap, sketch pad backing like I am. It tears the pieces, which is fine, but that will definitely wear over time. And the packing tape just kind of keeps it preserved. But again, the waterproof aspect of it works great. I think the first time I'd ever heard about that, somebody used foam core board, but it will work for anything.
Pam in the comments said, on the topic of being afraid of my supplies, I got a pad of Arsh's paper on sale 2 years ago, and I've only used 1 sheet so far.
So, oh my goodness. I relate with this a lot. Like, I feel like we as artists, especially when we come into something new or expensive or beautiful, we love it so much and we know it's great, but we're so afraid to use it because we're afraid of wasting it. But it's not wasting if you are learning through the process. And remember that you can always get more. You can always find more. You can find it again. But it won't make a difference if you're not actually using it. So I've just been telling myself, like, just use it. No matter what it is, just use it. And know that, because otherwise I end up sitting on a ton of supplies that I never really end up using. And then I run out of room. And then I'm left in a crisis because I have more stuff than I can even, get around to using because I have so much. So also, you guys see how much I cut up my pieces. Like, I cut up my paper, and part of that is to make it stretch as far as possible. But I cannot preach the value enough of having just a swatch card of the paper you are working on. Helps so much. Here we are. Off. There we have our secret doors. These would also make really fun postcards. If you're wanting to have pen pal or anything like that, these would make a really fun postcard to send. And the gold, the metallic, whatever metallic you have, really makes a difference. Yeah. It's always one of my favorite things is adding metallics. How are we doing on time, Lee?
We are doing pretty good. Say we got about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
So we can open it up for show and tell, or if anyone has any additional questions.
Yes, if you have additional questions, feel free to drop them in the box because we've got the time to talk about it.
And we have a lot of people. We got 14, 15 people here.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you for joining. It looks like there's a lot of people working.
Awesome.
So that's good. But if you'd like to share your progress or just want to say hi, now's the time to do it.
Is it okay if I something? Is it, oh my God, I can't speak. Is it okay if I say something?
Sure.
I'm not going to share my pieces, or I can share this one.
Okay,
Oh,
let
nice.
me spotlight you. There you go.
I'll have to figure out how to turn off this blur background.
Oh,
That's okay.
Thank you.
I
And
like
what
that you did a window.
Hmm?
I like that you did a window.
Thank you. It was completely unintentional. And then what I found is that I got kind of discouraged because they don't look exactly like yours, but I feel like it's just something I need to play with more.
Yep. And lowering the expectation is really going to help that. So yeah, remember that you have your own style, you have your own unique touch that nobody else can add to it, and just work with it and find your own pace for it.
Thank you, Guru Bree.
You're welcome.
But it was
Great.
fun.
Anyone else want to share comments,
Is
suggestions?
it Melissa in the car? Is it car studio again?
What?
I don't know if you were there, Lee, but Melissa had done, she was doing watercolor snacks in the car one time.
Oh yeah, I was there.
You were there, okay.
I don't want to accuse someone for living in their car, so we'll just.
No, it's just like it's driving. Like that's awesome.
I know, it's just funny.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, Melissa.
Oh, let me switch this. There we go. I've got a lot of doors going on.
Oh, yay!
Hello,
Can you
sir.
spotlight that, Lee?
Yep, got you.
I love it. Oh, look at all those different shapes. I love the one with like the vine coming up from the bottom to the top. That's awesome.
This one, yeah. I was kind of.
There we
I
go.
have a lot of random mixtures, so I was like, let's use some of these.
That's brilliant. Oh, this is a great exercise to use up what's left over in your palette. Like if you've got like a full palette, like when your palette looks like this is a really great way to use up your paint. Like brilliant idea, Melissa. I love that.
That was fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right, anyone else would like to share? Go ahead and turn on your audio.
Yeah, I'll share. So I did one large one. Oh, I thought I turned that blur off. And I tried to do the like splatter from, I don't know, was it the spring box or the summer box? But I couldn't figure it out. So I'll have to play around with that some more. But then I also did.
Those are beautiful.
Those look real nice.
I love those. I love the middle one. It's got so much character to it.
Yeah, I was thinking, I've only got the gold liner, but I was thinking like, the steel that goes over crossbars
Yeah.
over doors. So
That's thank you so much for sharing. I love it.
Thanks. I love everyone else's doors. They look so cool.
Yes. So it's funny because like I was actually working on an example and your door reminds me of like my first example that I was working on here with the panels and the coloring and everything. It's perfect. I love that everybody's doors are so unique, and it's really fun.
For sure.
Mhm. I also really appreciate when you guys share. You guys know how much I love seeing what you are creating. But it's not, you never have to feel obligated to share if you don't want to. I just let you know that I love it.
Yes, very nice. Speaking of sharing, we may have people on this stream that weren't at last stream. Do you want to share a teaser for the next box that's shipping shortly?
Sure. So you guys have probably seen some of the previews and stuff, but I mean, it's way cooler getting to see it, the real thing. Coming in the gemstone box is this beautiful little palette. These are Sennelier French watercolors. They're the half pans. And I love them. I love Sennelier. If you guys know my testimony, Sennelier watercolors were the very first like artist grade watercolors that I invested in, and I fell in love with them. So very excited to be getting to play with their paints next quarter.
Yes, and then there's some extra stuff around the half pans. I don't know if you've talked about that.
We didn't talk about the specifics.
Okay, we're not gonna. I don't think we should. I think it'll make it a surprise. The other items that are gonna accompany these half pans.
Yes. But yes, they look small, but they are mighty and they are vibrant.
And I believe the binder is honey. Is that correct?
I actually don't know. I think I heard something about that, but I didn't know that actually.
There are a few watercolor brands that use a more natural binder for the pigments. I think one of them is M-Gram watercolor, and I think the other one is Sennelier.
I knew about M-Gram because their consistency is excuse me, their consistency is so sticky even after you've like put it in a pan or something like that. But I didn't realize that Sennelier did honey as well. So that's really awesome.
Melissa in the chat said, I think it's honey and gum Arabic, which makes sense.
Awesome.
Honey is what keeps it wetter.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
I find that it can be a little easier on the brushes when you're trying to activate it with water. In my experience, the watercolors that have dealt with honey, they reactivate a little easier. The core watercolors are great, but they do tend to dry hard. So it takes a little bit more scrubbing to work out. The ones with honey binders, yeah, they're just like butter. It's so good.
Emma has a good question. In terms of making watercolors, do you think you can literally use grocery store honey? I want to try, but I don't want to make watercolors. That's a good question. What I would do is I would just go to YouTube and see if
I do know how to make watercolors. I just live in a 1-bedroom and it's a lot of supplies and ventilation.
Yeah.
I could do it, but this building is already being held together by duct tape. I don't need to give them chemical poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, definitely do some research and even reach out to some paint makers. But I feel like a lot of the honey that I see a lot of it is just like raw organic honey. And I feel like if that's not what you use, I don't know what else you could.
That's really cool.
I would say don't use the honey bear one.
Oh,
I don't know much about the honey bear one, but I don't know if that's the raw organic stuff. Laura Lynn says you have to be careful with grocery store honey. Make sure it comes from a reputable business. That's some good advice, Laura Lynn. Thank you. I'm gonna scooch these away now.
your ring is cool.
Very cool.
This class makes me so happy. I feel like a little kid.
Well, I'm glad. I feel like it's important to have fun.
How is your studio so neat?
I'm sorry?
Your studio or the area around you is so clean and organized.
Yes, that is a recent change.
She took some time off to do that.
I did. I took about 2 weeks off and I assembled all of this. I gutted everything. Everything has a place. I need to do some tidying because it's a little bit cluttered right now, but everything has a place. The rest of my studio is very similar, except for that back corner. That's next.
It's so pretty. I don't want to touch anything. I just want to admire it. Like
Well,
when you do,
you can touch the screen as much as you want.
you're gonna teleport to your side of the country.
Oh, that technology is coming. You know it is.
It's funny. Let's see here.
Oh, I also want to say that I really love that you do this on a Saturday or Sunday. And I think that's really nice. And it was very kind of you guys to do that.
Definitely.
You're welcome. So most people are available like on weekends. We've also gotten some feedback that maybe like a weekday night class. So if you are interested in something like that, like a Tuesday night or Wednesday or Thursday night, make a note in the ArtSnacks mix group if you'd be interested in that, because we do I think we do 4 live streams a quarter, and we could definitely schedule at least one of them to not be on a weekend. You know, people are busy.
I actually think I'm going to be adjusting the schedule to be a little bit more half and half.
Oh, okay, great.
Because it also helps my schedule as well. So yeah, and also coming from a place of working in retail where I used to do fluctuating schedules, wouldn't always get to do weekends, wouldn't always get to do, you know, weekdays or something like that, or even evenings. So having the variety is really good. And I know that there's a lot of people that work different shifts, rotating shifts, evenings, weekends, things like that. So yeah.
Cool. Question from Sherry: do we have a schedule for the Winterbox live streams yet? I didn't see when I looked.
Lee, I don't know if that has gone out yet or if we're waiting.
Is it winter? Yeah. You guys definitely picked it. You and Sarah picked them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So probably next week we'll put them as an event on ArtSnacks Mix.
They'll be coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon, very soon. We wanted to just finish up the fall box and then we'll put out the schedule.
Yeah.
If there's no
Very
other,
excited for the next box, you guys.
very excited, super excited.
Show us more. Show us more.
Show us more. Oh my gosh.
It'll be there before you know it. It'll be there so quick.
I mean, I'm okay with showing more if you want to show more. We can stop the recording and show if we want to do that.
You want me to swatch them? Do you want
Yeah.
to swatch
Well,
Okay.
no, I'm gonna
No?
stop the recording. I'm gonna
Okay.
stop the recording.
All right.
Hold on a second.
See